Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here today and taking an hour out of your busy day to take a look at the OpenCCCApply Release 5.5 changes for the upcoming release on September 30th. That's a Friday night. I have some fine folks on the line with me today helping. First of all, my name is Patty Donohue. I am product manager for OpenCCC account, CCCApply applications, and also the CCC Proxy. And you may have heard that. We're not going to talk about it too much because we could spend a lot of time on that. But that is under development now, and if you haven't heard about it, you will be shortly. Co-presenting with me today is Tyler Bain. He's the lead developer at Unicon, who is the developer of CCCApply. And he's going to actually do the demonstration. And then we have our project manager, Stephen English, who's going to be monitoring the chat. So I have all of the lines muted just because we have 50 people, and it gets kind of loud. So please use the chat window for questions. Last session at 1 o'clock, we did a little experiment with having some, answering a little Q&A halfway through, but I think it sucked up a little bit too much time. We definitely want to get your questions answered, but we also want to get you out of here on time. So we're gonna wait until the end and answer as many questions as we can. So use the chat. If it's a question like I've already said it, or if it's real simple, I'm just going to have Stephen answer it in the chat. But otherwise, save it for the end so that everyone can hear it, and we'll answer it out loud. So disregard this 2 breaks for Q&A. We're just going to wait till the end. So just to kind of give you a little bit of lay of the land, what we're going to do in the next hour. First of all, the purpose of this webinar, not only to show you the enhancements and the changes that we've made to the OpenCCC account and the CCCApply standard application. We also, the bog fee waiver and the international app, of course, are under this umbrella, but we didn't make any content changes to those applications. So we're not going to be seeing those. Focus on the standard application and then the account. We're going to talk about a few bugs. So we did, we have a list of 20, 30 little bug fixes that we made, and they were real little, like typos, typo fixes, and little things that you wouldn't even notice, not worth wasting your time on. But there are 2 that I'd like to at least point out, especially since a college or 1 or more colleges reported these bugs. So I just wanted at least you to know that we heard you and we've made those changes. Then we'll jump into to what we're all here for, looking at the multiple measures implementation, look at the area B logic change, and a couple other on-screen changes that students will see. Then we're going to talk really quickly about, what does the multiple measures implementation mean? What do you have to do? You don't have to do anything. What new data fields are being released? What do you have to do? You don't have to do anything unless you want. So we're going to go through that towards the end, and then talk about feedback and providing feedback for this 30-day preview. But first, so just to address something that's come up, especially since the last annual update. So some of you may be new on the line to CCCApply, maybe new to the California Community Colleges. CCCApply has been around for over 10 years. And traditionally, we have been on an annual update release cycle, 1 big release a year. And it usually happens around March, once in a while, maybe April 1st or something, but typically at one of the low, application submission times of the year. However, for the past 2 years or so, we've been doing this supplemental release in September, another kind of low volume time. This one, there's several reasons why we're doing this, and since we're going to take advantage of it and clean up a few bugs and work on some accessibility stuff. But first of all, our communication policy is now that for a supplemental release like this one, we are going to give you a 60-day heads up, if not earlier. This is what's going to be released. This is what we're working on, 60 days in advance. And then we'll post the pre-release notes to let you know these are the change requests we've worked on, give you a chance to respond, post steering committee meetings. By the way, those are posted on the project site, which I have queued up and we can take a look at. And then 30 days before the release, we're gonna put all the changes in the pilot environment. And not to spend too much time on that, but there was a little confusion at the last session about piloting and an implementation versus what we're calling the pilot site, the pilot environment. Used to be called the QA site a year or two ago. We call it the pilot environment now, so it's just a testing environment, the complete full process for colleges, meaning you have a pilot application, you have a pilot administrator where you're setting up your test terms, your majors, your test rules and supplemental questions, a complete mirrored site, but it's just, it's all junk data. It's all for testing. So that's what the pilot site is. And this is, the 30-day preview means everything that's going to be released on September 30th is now in the pilot site for 30 days in advance. We hope that you will look at it, review it. If you choose to set up the multiple measures, and then there's just 1 or 2 extra data fields that I will show you. You don't have to implement these. They don't have to be part of your download file. It's all optional. But if you do, we would like you to look at it sooner than later. And then anything else you notice, because that's the risk of doing a release. Things you don't even touch or work on get affected by other development. So if you see any bugs or if anything doesn't work for you, now is this 30-day period is where we want to hear from you. So let's see, did I show this yet? So last thing I'll say, and we'll jump into it. We're in a code freeze. We're not doing any new development during this time. So we're spending this whole month cleaning up any issues you see, any bugs, helping those who need implementation help, helping you with your download file if you want to implement. So we're devoted to that. We're committed to helping you. Let's, give us feedback as much as you possibly can. And I'm going to show you where we want you to do that. We'll get there. So I just want to make sure that I heard some background noise. Just get that out of the way. Okay. Hopefully that was a little faster than last time. So getting back to like the pilot environment. So even if you are new or if you haven't implemented, say, the bog fee waiver application, maybe you never do, but maybe you're thinking about it, or the international, you have a pilot application. You can get to it today. Everybody uses the same URL, but you would replace these 3 X's at the end with your college MIS code. If you're not sure what your college MIS code is, go to the support site. We'll get it to you. But I wanted to point this out because, if you're a single college district, don't use your college MIS code, which all end in 0. All district codes end in 0, college codes end in 1, 2, 3 or more. So replace the X's, put your MIS code in there, bam, you're in your pilot test application. You can preview, and then maybe contact us and say you want to implement the bog or the international app. Okay, so a couple of these things, and I'm going to try not to talk so much, we can't really demo them. So I'm going to go through just a couple slides, and then I'm going to turn it over to Tyler to actually demonstrate what we can demonstrate. But the first thing that was a big impetus for this release was the OpenCCC IdP, our identity provider for students logging into the OpenCCC account system, which, up until this point has just sat right in front of CCCApply. That's where students, when they go to apply for the very first time, they create their OpenCCC account, and that generates their CCC ID. Now, the Tech Center is really moving forward. We have so many projects, the Common Assessment, CCC Assess, we have the Course Exchange, we have the big MyPath Student Services portal that's about to launch soon. It's beautiful. We have Careers Coach, all these different web applications, some vendor applications, the Canvas course management system, Hobson Starfish degree audit program. So we have all these applications. Now OpenCCC is going to sit in front of them. And we're not going to go into it too much. I do have one quick slide. We can come back to it about the CCC SSO Federation, which is, if you've been around for a while, you know that the Tech Center's been talking about a single sign-on student experience across all our applications for a long time, 10 years. It's finally coming to fruition. So right now, this is our IdP. Shibboleth, which is a IdP solution, and there's others out there. We chose to use this one because it's open source and it's free. And we knew that we'd be asking colleges to set up an IdP first to get to the CCCApply Administrator and Report Center. So almost all of you have that set up now, and most of you are using Shibboleth. I know not all of you are. But also our IdP for OpenCCC, we set up in Shibboleth. So it's just a product, but the version 2 that we've all been using reached end of life this summer, and so we are taking this time to upgrade to version 3. So what does that mean to you? Again, reached end of life. Also, the version 2 was not supporting both student and staff single sign-on, and that's part of this SSO Federation plan. So we needed to take this opportunity to upgrade. So without belaboring this too much, I'll just let you read this, but these are some of the questions that are already coming to me when I announced the release. Just to kind of keep in your head, you guys have an IdP, and you may have more than one. And you may already have upgraded it to version 3 because of one of the other projects that you're involved in. But you did set one up when you first implemented CCCApply. Again, that's to get to the administrator and the report center. So if you're still running version 2, there's nothing you need to do, but you should be aware that that version's no longer supported. So we're hoping that you will upgrade soon. We will help you. So, do you have to upgrade during the 30-day preview period? No. There's no time limit on it. It's just, there's no patches. There's no support anymore for version 2. And then that last bullet, so if you are thinking about upgrading, but maybe you have a smaller IT department, or you have a lot of things going on and you can't really handle the do-it-yourself upgrade like you did maybe when you first set it up, we can help you. We have implementation teams. In addition to Unicon, we're also contracting with Aegis as an implementation team that can actually go out to your college, help you set up, not just upgrade your Shibboleth. You can move to a new system. There's colleges that are using other products, but they can also help you get set up on whatever application you may be interested in. So, meaning also financial support is available as well if needed. So let's circle back to this. I'm kind of anxious to stay on track with time. But if you are interested in finding out more about the Tech Center's SSO Federation, what is it? What does it mean? We have a ton of documentation in our public documentation area. I will point you to it before the end, and then feel free to contact me or one of the other product managers, and we'll tell you, what the proxy is. It's not scary, and it's actually something that you want, because it's going to help you get your students CCC IDs. If they don't need to apply, but they're using Assess or one of the other applications, how are you going to get their CCC ID? This is kind of all part of that process. So I'll come back to it, or if you have a question, we'll get to it at the end. So I'm just going to set this up and turn it over to Tyler. One of the things we do want to show you is that we are working on account recovery. We realized that we're lacking a little bit. We needed more self-service account recovery for students. So this is one of two options that we're implementing. This one, a password reset by email, and then in the March update 2017, one more password reset by text message. And you can see from the slide, I mean, one of the biggest reasons we're doing this, besides giving students a convenience, is 6% of all submitted applications right now are resulting in a support call. And of those, more than half are about account recovery, which totally makes sense. They apply, 2 years ago, they create a username and password, and now 2 years later they need to get in because they're taking a test. They don't remember it. So this is to support them. So I'm going to let Tyler go ahead and show you what it looks like, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Patty. I'll just get to sharing my screen here real quick. One of the features that we wanted to show real quick before we went off on the account recovery feature was that we did go through all the applications, and here in the footer you'll notice that there's a new help link. So we just wanted to highlight that that was one of the items that came up. I think one of the colleges might have reported that. So we just wanted to show that that feature was in place now, that across all the applications this help link is now in the footer so that users are able to find that a little easier. So I'll go ahead and continue with the reset password via email feature that we've implemented. So here I'm playing the role of a student that's coming into the OpenCCCApply domestic application program. I'm applying to College B, one of the test colleges that we have. This part of this feature is that once you go through the process of resetting your password and requesting the email and then resetting the password, once you go through that process, it will go ahead and redirect you back to the application that you started on. So for instance, if you started from the BOG application or from the international application, it will redirect you back to BOG or international depending on where you started from. In this case, since I'm starting from apply, it will send me back to the apply application, back to the my applications page for the College B test college. So I'll go ahead and point that out at the end. I just want to give you some expectation as to what will happen with this feature. So the scenario is that I clicked the sign in button as a user, but I've forgotten my username or my password. In this case, I'll go ahead and, for the sake of expediency, I'll just go ahead and click that I forgot my password. Although this process is the same, if you forgot your username, then you can still go through the same process of entering your first name, last name, your social security number, your email address, and so forth, and use that to retrieve your username. And then once you've figured out what your username is, then you'll land on this page, or the flow will take you to ultimately the same place where you can request one of these password resets. So I'll enter my username for my Bain1 account. And then the new part of this feature, originally at this point, you would just be presented with these two security questions to ask. And we have these two radio buttons in place. So if you click Access My Account by Answering Security Questions, then you're presented with these two security questions as you always have been. However, part of the feature was adding this other option to send me an email link to reset my password. So if I choose that option and then click the Continue button, I'm sent to a confirmation page that tells me that my reset email has been sent. So if I go down to my inbox, you'll notice that I've gotten this nice new email here informing me that I recently requested this reset to my password, that for security reasons, this reset link will expire in exactly 24 hours from when I received it. And then just some additional information about if you did not request this password reset, then please contact the support desk. So if I go ahead and click this link, so you'll notice that over here I have the Chrome browser where I started. Here I'm in Firefox, so this is a completely different session, a new, fresh session where I didn't have any information from what happened over here in Chrome. I've landed back on the OpenCCC account management application, and I've got my username here, and then I have the option to change my password. So originally my password was testing1234. I'm going to change it to password1. And then click the Continue button at this point. And I get confirmation that I successfully set my password. So when I click the Sign In button, I'm sent to the login page for our suite of applications. So I'll enter my username tbain1, and then I'll enter test1234, which was what my password used to be before I changed it just now. So if I click Sign In, it says it cannot find that username password combination because, of course, I just changed it. So if I change this to password1, which is what I changed it to, and click Sign In, then I am signed into the application and sent directly to my applications page for the CCC Test College B. The one other part of this application, or the one other part of this feature that I wanted to show you was that if I go back to a password reset request email that I received more than 24 hours ago. So if I go down here to this one that I received yesterday at 8:38 a.m., and I click this link to try to go through and reset my password, then I'm sent to a page informing me that that reset link has expired. So if I click the Continue button, I'm just sent to the beginning of that same flow again, where I can enter my username and then click the Continue button and have a new reset password email sent to me. I think that was all. That was all that I wanted to show on this feature. So unless there's anything else you need me to show, Patty, I'll go ahead and pass it back to you.
Okay. No, that was great. But I know I said we'd wait till the end to answer questions, but 3 just came in that I'll just point out. So it was, what if the student doesn't remember their email, right? We realize that, and they can answer the security questions. So I mean that is the one thing we did not want to add an extra security risk of having them type in their email address. I know that it's kind of common these days to do it that way, but we're very, very concerned about security with student data. So if they can't remember their email address, they can answer the security questions. If they type in so they won't be entering their email. So it's what this law is on file, stored in their OpenCCC account. And then once they're in, you notice that Tyler was able to reset successfully. He got to the My Applications page. Right there is a link to go in and edit your OpenCCC account. So if they know they have a new email address, they can go in there and change that, update it right then before going into the application. The only other thing I wanted to point out, and I wish that I could say that this was going to be implemented right now, but it looks like it's going to have to wait until March. But one of the things that we know is kind of a stumbling block for students, and you guys probably know it too, is, they don't read. They don't read what's on the screen. They create their account for the first time, and even though a big box appears that says, great, you've created your account, here's your CCC ID, now click continue to actually apply. We talked with the steering committee round and round about how do we simplify this. They need to sign in. What do we do? How do we get them to understand they didn't just apply? They only created their account. So what we're going to do, and I think it's going to work really well, is you saw Tyler log in with his new account, his new password, and he got taken right to the My Applications page. Is that still open by any chance, Tyler? That's okay. Instead of going right to that My Applications page, which we know is another kind of blocker, like, they have to either resume an app from there or start a new one, we're going to drop them right into the first page of the application. So this will only be for brand new first-time students. They've never been here before. They've never created an account. They've never applied. So the very first time, I know we're talking about account recovery here, but the very first time they apply to OpenCCC and create their account, they click that next button and they go right into the first page of the application. No My Applications page to get them stalled out. We think that this may solve a lot of problems. That's my dog scratching the floor under my desk. Sorry. Okay, so thank you so much, Tyler. Let me quickly go back here. I got to share. Okay, so there's our password reset option. Hopefully we'll reduce support calls by a lot. Students are used to that. Not having that was probably, dumbfounding them. So again, I'm going to point out on that release, pre-release notes page, all the bugs. I've just line item them. We're not going to talk about those. You can go and look and see what typos we fixed and stuff. But there are two that I want to point out that will just take a minute. And the reason I'm pointing these ones out is a college, one or more college, reported them. And we want you to know we hear you, and we made these fixes. These are small, tiny little things. So instead of demoing them, we're just going to show you a screenshot. One of them had to do with, actually both of them had to do with email message content. And email message meaning, one, there's an OpenCCC account creation confirmation email that goes out automatically. Like here you can see Tyler Bain, first time he ever came to OpenCCC, he created his account, and it flashed that screen, here's your CCC ID, but we also send them a confirmation email. So they get it, and it looks kind of like this. However, if, and some of you know this is also an issue, if, there's some data fields on the application that are not required. Students don't have to answer them. So in your download file, you're going to see either like a null value or an empty set of quotes or something other than a response. Well, if that field happens to be first name, it was showing, it was kind of messy. We were showing this HTML code field, like dear merge field code Bain. So this is a real small thing, but we just want to show you that we've cleaned that up. Any null value fields, if you happen to use those in an email message, they will not appear as HTML code. Just to let you guys know, we are required by law or the student is required to give us their last name, but they are not required to give us their first name. So if they don't have the first name, they have to check. They still have to answer that question, but they don't have to give us their name. They have to either give us the name or check the box saying they don't have a first name. This is a case where he didn't have a first name. So this is just dear last name. We took out the first name merge field. Hard to explain, very simple fix. The other one, very similar to it, this was reported by a few colleges. If you merged in a date field, like, something about your date of birth or something in an email where it showed a date, those date fields, system generated, were adding a timestamp in military time. So you would see, 04/20/1998, and then a whole string of numbers for the timestamp. That was messy. That was confusing. We took that out. Sorry, guys, I'm just going to keep muting everybody and carry on. So just a couple more things, and we're about to get into the two important ones. We're going to demonstrate one accessibility change, but again, as I said in the beginning, we're very committed to ensuring that CCCApply is 100% accessible. It meets the 508 standards and requirements, but we want to go a step above that. And any new development that we create, any fixes we make, and then when we go in and redesign CCCApply 3.0, which is coming, it might be a year away, but we want CCCApply to work on a mobile phone. We want to fix all the problems that were identified because of an accessibility review, such as our hover help. Hover help wasn't accessible. We thought it was such a great idea, but it turned out that it isn't such a great idea for screen readers and other assistive technology. So we're going to revise the whole application at some point in the not too distant future. Until then, everything we develop is going to meet this WCAG 2.0 AA accessibility standard. So every release we do, we are going to knock off a couple more things. So in this one, we did some things like ASCII art. We made that more accessible. Some keyboard navigation, making sure that the focus, when an error message comes up and the student has to go back to a field and fix it, we have to make sure that the focus returns right to that field. Little things like that, we're knocking those off one by one. The big one that I'm going to have Tyler demo is we spent a lot of time on the high school and the college finder widget. The one thing I'll say, and I'll let him get into this, is I know you guys probably have some issues with this lookup finder. A couple of them off the top of my head is middle schools aren't in there. Schools that have changed addresses or missing schools aren't in there. So what that thing is, kind of in high level, is not only is it an advanced search lookup, right? So this kind of just like a Google search. Student puts in the first couple letters of their school, and it'll return everything that matches that. First, we ask them what state, so that we're narrowing it down to the state. But everything that's in there, and we did this because we want to make sure that you're getting the right school. The student just used, in the old days, they would just type in Kennedy High School. Well, is it Robert Kennedy High School or is it John F. Kennedy High School? And, making sure that, it's the right school with the right spelling in the right city, and it's attached to the right codes. So long story short, we get a feed from the California Department of Education, and that's what the CDS code is. We get another feed from the College Board. That's what the SEED codes are. Those come in automatic feeds. So when we get complaints from colleges that something's missing or something's changed, we can't manually overwrite those feeds, because then the next month they'll overwrite what we manually edited. So I just want to give you a heads up of why that, why is it so hard to get us to make that change you want? So what we're asking you to do is go right to the source. We have links right to CDS's, feedback link and the College Board. Those are in the support site. So if you have issues with any schools in there, go right to the source so that when we get our feed, it's correct. Otherwise, we have to repeat that edit every month. So sorry to go off on a tangent. I'm going to let Tyler now show you how we fixed these high school finders for accessibility.
Okay, hi again, everybody. So I'll wait for my screen to load, and then, so what we've done for the school finder, some of you might be familiar with the old widget that we had for the school finder. One of the big changes you'll see when I start typing in one of the choices that I would like to find. So I started typing in the first 3 letters, and it came back with any results where those 3 letters came up with a match. That's the same functionality that we had before, although we've changed the user experience quite a bit for this feature. You might notice that the pagination that we had is missing from the left side of these search results. Now, instead of having multiple pages that the user can look through for the various choices that they might need to make, we have just one page with up to 25 listings of search results that came back. And here at the top, we have a little message that says displaying 25 of however many total matches there are. So that encourages the user to go ahead and refine the search results just by typing more of the school's name in, rather than having them search through list after list, page after page of the different results that come back. One of the major changes that we made, in removing that pagination, one of the major things that accomplishes is that it makes keyboard navigation much easier. So from an accessibility standpoint, users that rely on assistive technologies have to use keyboard navigation a little bit more often than they can use mouse navigation. Excuse me. So keyboard navigation is far more robust and far more reliable in this version of our School Finder widget. And then down at the bottom of the list, my school is not on this list, is a little bit more prominently listed as well, because I know that one of the common complaints that we've had is that for those students that weren't able to find their school on the list, they weren't quite sure what choice they should select. So if you select my school is not on this list, as with the previous widget, it opens up these fields where you can manually enter the school's name and the city that the school is located in. One of the other major changes, they're not very visible in this case, and they're not very easy to demonstrate in this sort of form, is just that we've added quite a bit of support around this widget so that screen readers and other assistive technologies are more aware of what the results are, what the widget is displaying on the screen. So as the user is navigating about these different choices, the screen reader is able to much better tell the user what the highlighted choice is, so that they're able to know exactly what they're choosing, whereas before it was a little bit hit or miss as to whether it would be able to read one or the other choices, whether it would read the highlighted choice or one that had happened before that, and it was just altogether not a very accessible experience. So I think that's all that I really had to show on this new School Finder. Of course, this is the same widget that we're using not only for high school and the colleges here in the CCCApply application, but this is also the same widget that we're using in the international application as well. So this change gave us the chance to rewrite this code so that it would be easier to maintain, and then also it would be a common code base that we're using across these two applications, so that maintenance is far easier. I think that was all that I wanted to touch on with this feature. Patty, did you have anything that you think I missed?
No, I think that was perfect, and okay, we're right on time now to look at the logic and the multiple measures, and then field some questions. So thanks, Tyler. It's perfect. So let me one more time. Hopefully you can see my screen. Let's go to, come on. So this is another thing that it's kind of hard to demo, so I'm just going to talk you through it and offer to spend more time with you if you have more questions. The first thing is we did revise the logic, but there's nothing you need to do. It's still calculates the area B pretty much not the same because we fixed it. We found a point in the logic where, we were classifying the person as a non-resident, but by the time that non-resident get all the way down to the bottom of the logic, they were actually classified as a resident just due to the way the logic was set up. So there were various issues that were brought to us. A few of them were related to the out-of-state indicators. So the first thing we did was went to the steering committee, and the steering committee put together a special subcommittee just dedicated to residency. So if you ever have any residency issues, bring them to us. We'll convene a meeting with this special residency committee, which also has, we used to have Elias Regalato on the committee. He's actually taken a new position, so his new, or his assistant, or his replacement, I'm not sure, but we have Michael, I'm not sure how to say your name, Michael, if you're on, please forgive me, Quinowit. But he's been really helpful. So we have Chancellor's Office representation as well as some long-term steering committee residency experts. So we sat down, we looked at the logic. I'm just going to talk you through this first couple steps and show you what we changed. But really the main things that you should know is there's nothing you need to do unless you have, I know at least one college, she made these beautiful special reports that she does a manual residency check off. Just being aware of where the change is so that your reports or your system can be updated if need be. So we pinpointed the issue that was coming at us, and that was a seemingly California resident. For all other intents and purposes, this person was California resident. They were born here. They have a permanent and current residence of California. They went to high school here, but for whatever reason, they said they paid taxes out of California last year. So, that's possible. So that should have been raising a flag, and it wasn't. So that was the first thing we looked at, and by figuring out that one, it kind of opened up the door for this is now the reason for all these other issues. So it's right here in step one, and this is in area B of the four areas. A is citizenship, B is the California residency, the stay in intent, C is the military classification, and D is the special eligibilities. So B is the biggest one, the most complicated, but it was right here in step one. So the very first thing that it looks at in the logic is, are there any out-of-state indicators? Did this student pay taxes outside of California, or vote outside, or attend college, or file a lawsuit outside of California within the last 2 years? And you can see this is a little bit tricky. It's a little bit backwards, but a 0 means no. So if all 4 of those are no, meaning if yes, all 4 of those are no, go to step 2. And then we start walking through the logic from there. If no, meaning yes, there's some problem. They pay taxes out of California. The old logic, we were giving them a B0, which is a non-resident classification, right away in step 1. And if you remember from last year or maybe 2 years ago, we had another bug right here. We actually said give them class 0 and end the logic. It was like, you're done. You did something out of the state. You're not going to pass this area. We fixed that one, but really what we should have done here was that should be a class B2. Now, so there's three statuses basically in each area. A B1 is a California resident. A B2 is possibly a resident, but there's some flags here. Possibly a resident, but documentation or proof is required. And then B0 is the non-resident. They don't meet our criteria for this area. So it used to be that. Now what we're going to do here is give them a B2 add a new flag, which is a new integrity flag, which is just an alert to the admissions office saying there's some reason why they're getting a possible resident. In this case, the flag is they have an out-of-state activity. So give them a B2 there, then go to step 2. So right away they have a B2. Then we walk through and so these 4 steps are the bulk of the change. And really it's just step 1, we changed it. Step 2 asks if they've been here for 2 years. If yes, go all the way to step 5. Because step 3 is have they been here 1 year? Because have they been here 2 years? No. Then go to 3. Have they been here 1 year? No. Then are they a foster youth under the age of 20 living in California? Which is kind of the last ditch effort if they, if it's no, 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 haven't been here 2 years, haven't been here 1 year, but they're a foster youth, then we're going to give them the possible resident B2 right here and a flag, and then let them carry on through the rest of the logic. So we changed step 1, no change to step 2 or 3. The only thing we did right here was instead of ending it for that B0, which was what we used to have, we said we're going to triple check that they're not a non-resident. So we're going to add one more piece of logic at the bottom. So at the very bottom, no changes to steps 5 through 11. When they get to 12, it's like, was B0 set anywhere? And if yes, then that's their classification. End it right there. If no, somewhere along the line their B0 changed back to a B2, then go to 13. So this is the new step we added as a final double check. 13 says, has B2 been set anywhere? If yes, that's what they end up with. If no, they're a resident. So it's a little bit, it's a little bit complicated. It's like if nothing was set, no B2 or B0 anywhere, then they're a resident. They pass. So I'm happy to go through this step by step with you after. I can stay a little later, or you can send me an email or post it in the support site so everyone can share in this information. So now we get to the multiple measures. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat about that logic. So here's the big thing. I'm going to turn it back over to Tyler. These questions came out of the 1 o'clock session. So the multiple measures for assessment placement was a change request presented to the steering committee from the Common Assessment Steering Committee. The Common Assessment Initiative, just like CCCApply has a steering committee, they came to us and said, we really need to collect this transcript, high school transcript data. We know it's self-reported, but it is one of the multiple measures that we need to collect per SB 1456 and other state legislation. So we said, okay, we'll consider it. We talked about it. The very first phase of what the steering committee did was they declined it. They said, no way, it's too long. We are already getting flack from everybody that the application is too long. We just, we're going to decline it. Then it went through another round and it got approved. The chancellor's office stepped in and said, listen, this has to be optional. We have to give colleges the ability to implement or not. And by the way, the response has been pretty overwhelmingly positive. Many schools want to implement this. So it's eight new questions, and there's some conditions. So the questions I was getting before is, do we have to implement this? No. Do you have to change your download file if you do implement it? No. And we can show you what we mean by that. So there's no requirement here, no obligation. You don't even have to update your download file in any way for anything we're releasing on the 30th. The only thing you would even have to change your download file for is if you wanted to add any of the new fields. There's these 8 new fields. I got one slide I'm going to show you at the end that has the other fields. There's just 2 other ones. You can choose to add them or not. If you do want to add them, then you do have to update your download client. Otherwise, you don't. So getting back to this real quick, the 2 conditions, because this came up. It's even if you implement this, it's not going to show up. Like I had about a half dozen colleges say, you said it was going to be in there and it's not. I don't see it. Your student answering the questions has to meet 2 conditions, or one of 2 conditions. Whoops, that's condition 2. The first condition is you're either a high school senior, so a concurrent enrollment, so they're, when they come in and says, I'm enrolling as a high school or lower grade in college at the same time. Soon as we get that information at the very top of the ed page, those questions will appear. For this condition, since it's a high schooler, we're going to first find out if they've passed 11th grade or not. So that's one of the questions. Then the rest of the questions appear. The second condition for display is, and this is the bulk, probably the bulk of us, is a high school grad or equivalent, like they've taken the GED or one of the certificates for California high school proficiency within the last 10 years. So if your test person is you and it's been over 10 years since you graduated from high school, those questions aren't going to show up. So but if you do meet these conditions, then these new questions will appear on screen. So wanted to get that in and let Tyler go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome.
So the first condition I wanted to show, just going off of what Patty just talked about, was if you're a concurrently enrolled student, so if you're enrolling in high school or lower grade and college at the same time, then you get a new set of fields down here underneath the last high school attendance section, but before the college education section, asking you if you have completed the 11th grade yet. So if you click no, then you don't have to answer further questions about what your high school transcript information is or what your multiple measures information is, which is what this maps to. If you click yes, then all this information you'll be asked all this information about your English courses and math courses, which goes back to the multiple measures questions that we're talking about. So if I start at this point with, I have, for instance, a 3.59 grade point average, we have a nice bit of filtering on this field. So if I try to enter 5.00, it doesn't allow me to do that. If I try to enter other nonsensical data, it doesn't work. But I can enter a 0.01, but I'll just go with a 3.95. So the next question that we have, what was the highest English course that you took in high school? So you're presented with a list of a couple of different courses that you might have taken in high school for your English. And then you're asked what grade did you receive in that English course. So you're presented with a list of all the various grades, A through D. P is in passing, NP for non-passing, and then other non-passing grade or none of the above, I don't know. So if I choose a B, then nothing else happens with me with regard to this question, or if I choose an F, which is a failing grade, nothing else happens for that question either. So the next question in the line is, what is the highest math course that you took in high school? So if I choose pre-calculus, then it asks what grade did I receive. So if I selected, I chose B, which is a passing grade, then that's it. That's a passing grade for this class, so I know that that's where I left off. So anything A through C minus is considered a passing grade. If I change this to a D, which is a non-passing grade, then I'm asked, what is the highest math course that you passed with a C minus or better in high school? So if I select that I passed trigonometry, I'm presented with a list of all the passing grades so that I can make that selection for myself. So this is in the context of a student that will be co-enrolled, so I'll go ahead and change this to a first-time student in college after leaving high school. In that case, then it rolls up these questions because I don't know what the high school completion date is. So if I change this to received a high school diploma, the questions pop up because it says that I've already corrected, that I've already received a high school diploma. However, so you'll note that my high school education level of January 25th, 2016, that is the residency determination date. So if I choose a date that is after that, so if I choose January 26th, 2006, then that's 9 years and 364 some odd days before the residency determination date. And because of that, then I still have all of these choices open to me for the high school transcript, other than the question of have I completed the 11th grade. However, in this case, then, if I change this to January 24th, then all of these questions roll up and it disappears because my high school, because I've said that my high school completion date is 10 years and 1 day before the residency determination date. So I think that was pretty much all that I had to show on that. I just wanted to enumerate the various questions that we had as part of the new multiple measures implementation, and then also just show the various student types that might encounter it and what they can expect.
Tyler?
So Patty, was there anything that you wanted me to touch on?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate a couple things. So the other thing that I had left off of those conditions is the students have to attend high school in California. So like when Tyler, if you can scroll up a little bit, they're not going to show up. Everything's conditional. First we got to find out what their enrollment status is. Then we got to find out their high school ed level. Those questions still might not show up. Then we got to find out when did they graduate. If it was before 10 years, not going to show up. If it was after, it will. So there's all kinds of conditions that, whether, even if you do implement this, that section might not show up for the student. The other thing is some of those questions, so there's eight new questions total. If the student happens to be a concurrent enrollment, so a high schooler, they're going to see the first one, have you completed 11th grade? The grade point average question is going to show up for everybody. And then so what the Common Assessment team wanted for sure was, what was the highest English class you took and what grade did you get? That one's pretty straightforward, just those two. But we also wanted to make sure that these weren't going to stump any kid. They might not remember. They might not remember their grade point average or what class they took. So every question, like, can you drop down on that first English question, listing all that right above that?
For the grade, okay.
So even if all of them are going to have that option, I don't know, none of the above. Even for the, if they choose none of the above, that corresponding grade field isn't going to show up. If you did pick one of them, then the grade field will show up. The other one that's going to show up no matter what is that next one. What was the highest math course you took? So there's two math questions. First, they want to know what was the highest course you took. If they say, I don't know, then that's it, they're done. But if they say, okay, I took algebra, then they're going to say, well, what grade did you get? If they failed it, then that's going to trigger the next one. Well, what was the highest one you passed with a C- or better? So that's why the math is a little bit more tricky, depending on, it's all conditional. If they say none of the above or I don't know, they don't even see the grades and they don't see the rest of the conditional questions. But so they not only want to know what they took, but what did they pass with a C- or greater as far as the math goes. So I think at this point, let me show them real quick, Tyler, where you can find out probably more details than you want on this. I was going to load that up just in case we wanted to see it, but we don't. Okay, one more. Here we go. So, whoops, one more. This is, hopefully all of you have been to the public documentation area. Even if you go to the CCCApply project site, which is the staff-facing CCCApply site. By the way, it got a facelift recently. It's still kind of in under design. This is more in line with all the other tech center sites. But same content. This is just for staff. You could go to documents and get to data dictionaries, user guides, and all of the other stuff we have in the public documentation area, which is takes you here. That's where the release notes are. The release notes for this release, all the stuff. But in there, you look at that release notes page. General info about the release. There's a nice little table of contents, so you can jump right down to the new data fields. But in the release notes summary section, so here's the two we looked at, the Shibboleth and the account recovery. And then in the standard app, new data fields to support multiple measures. Just click on that, and that takes you to the change request document. This started as a change request. And then by the time it gets approved, it turns into a change order. So here's, you can see if you want to know details about each question, you can, click right on. This jumped you down to grade point average, what appears on screen, what the length, all of that stuff. And then it also talks about the validation. This is only going to appear if they answer this way. So again, probably more info than you need about these changes. But I do try to do a summary. Sorry, let me scroll up here. There is like a summary of each change at the top of these. It's a lot, I know. Little bit of information in just kind of a high level. Why we're doing it, the new section, the disclaimer that we put on there. College staff use this information to provide guidance only. Your responses will not affect your admission to college. And also just to let you know that we were conscious of they might not remember. We can't make these required questions. They have to have an out, none of the above, or I don't know. So that's included in each of them. So these are all of the data fields that you can choose to implement or not. Let me go back to this real quick. We're almost done, guys. This PowerPoint will be posted when I post the recording from the session. And this, I asked John Haddad, who is the product manager for Assess, to give me some more information of why we're doing this. So I put it on these two slides. You can read those. Do we have to implement? No, you don't. We'd like you to review and decide if you want to implement in this 30-day period. Otherwise, because if you do that, we'll just, on September 30th, you're good to go, or you're all set up. If you don't tell us in this 30-day period, we might have to schedule it to appear for you. Kind of like we do for some other changes for CCCApply, like, well, it won't take effect until Friday night. It won't be a long time, but we'll have to order it, and they'll have, because Unicon's going to have to manually open it up for your college. So if you do, then you have to go through the update of your download file and update of the download client. You don't have to. Again, these are the new data fields. Most of them are, you can see these, well, on the release notes page, I have another couple columns for each field. All of these will be available in the report center. By the way, all of these will be available in the report center. Of course, the multiple measures, you won't have any responses if you don't implement. But for example, this Social Security number one, even if you don't add it to your download client and your downloads for that automatic process of, that gets set up when you implement CCCApply, you can still run a report in the report center immediately. Everything funnels into the report center. So if you're thinking about this and maybe you want to implement, but you don't have the time to update your download file, you can still get that data in the report center. So it's mostly multiple measures. There's a couple down at the bottom for just international. There was just a few fields that were not in the database, and they needed to be. So we've added them. If you're implementing international, if you haven't implemented yet, but you're thinking about it, you don't have to do anything now. You'll catch these when you implement. But if you have already implemented, and there's 3 colleges so far, they're going to have to go back and add these to their download file. So it's really just that SSN no if you don't want to implement multiple measures. So IT staff, if you are going to implement, most of you know where, what to do. You add those fields to your format XML file, but we really encourage you to set it up in Pilot, right? So you're going to update your Pilot download file and point to the Pilot download server to do the test. And then once you confirm, yep, they're pulling down the data fields I want, and the values look like I think they're supposed to, then you have to do the same thing for your production file. It won't be ready until the 30th, but at least you've done it already, you've tested it, and you'll be all ready to go on the 30th. Last thing, and then we'll take questions, is, so again, just kind of reinforce, we're not doing any development this month. We're fixing anything that you find. In fact, Kyle Mack, I don't know if you're online, but you're so good. You found something that we inadvertently affected, because that's, releases are risky. You could change one thing and then something else completely different gets affected by it. So that's why testing is really important. He found something with the way null values were appearing in the downloads in Pilot, and we were able to jump on that. So what we're hoping is that you'll go to the Pilot site, support site, and I found a bug, or this isn't working well, or can you help me update our files, or give me another demo so I can decide if I want to implement. If you haven't been there before, ccctechnology.info. Highly encourage you to register for an account and follow the CCCApply System Alerts category page. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to get out of here now. I have that open right here, not there, right here. So you can follow. What we want you to do is follow the category of system alerts, because that's what we're using. Like anytime we need to tell you something important, report center's down. It's been reported. We know it. We're on it. So that if you could go here, search for report center, and if it's already been reported or if we've posted it, it's going to come right up. So again, you just click on System Alerts category page. I'm already following it, but if you're not, just click follow, and it acts just like an RSS feed. You're going to get an email anytime we post something. And we probably should be posting more. I mean, there's a little bit of activity lately because of this preview, but we're not going to abuse this. It's for alerts. The other categories are for everything else, conversations, anything. But we try to keep this one a little bit sacred so that you can feel good about following it. We're not going to bombard you with emails. So that is it. Oh, we're still a few minutes over. I'm so sorry. Tried to talk less, but let's open it up for a few questions and see what you got. So Stephen, what we did last time, looks like there's not very many. Why don't you read to us any question that hasn't been answered already, if possible.
Sure, Patty. There's a couple of them that are outstanding.
Okay.
Tyler was able to answer a few in the chat. One that wasn't answered was, so self-supported results or self-reported results are all that will be required for these multiple measure questions.
Right.
That was a question.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's just self-reported data.
Another question was, will they need to provide backup documentation to support these answers? What is to stop a student from self-reporting anything they want?
Well, we actually have some people from the Assess project on the line. Monica, are you still with us? You should be able to unmute yourself. If not, is anybody from Assess on the line? Because what I understand is that this is just one of multiple measures. And, you know, high school transcripts are going to be, you know, consulted. I don't know all of the details of how they're, you know, measuring these. I know that this is just one area that's going to help place that student, you know, in the appropriate English and math class. So I love that question. I'm sorry that I'm not an expert on this. I think that the support site is a perfect place to ask it. If you don't have time, I'll put your question in there. But it'd be great if you could go to there and register so that you get notified of the response. But I didn't see. Is Monica on the line? I guess not. John, Haddad, anybody? Okay, to be continued on that. But I know we're looking at different measures.
Yeah, and there's one last question that I don't think we can answer at this time, and that's how does CCCApply link to the CAI with the MMApp student data, or is that still being worked out?
So, yeah, that's still being worked out. I'm not sure if I understand the question 100%. Does that mean how does the Common Assessment project or application get this data? Or does it mean how does the CCCID get to assess? Which is a very, very common question, and we are working that out as we speak. Let's see, it looks like we might have gotten another question. Did we? Let's see. Now, why is multiple measures being asked here and then again in CAI? Well, you know, this is CCCApply is the, you know, this is our first look at a student. You know, this is where we're getting the lion's share of information across the entire system, really. I mean, it's the first time we find out, you know, who they are, what their, you know, what their background is, what their parent education is. It's just the logical place to get that information up front. So I don't know if they're asking that again in CAI. I honestly haven't seen that application yet. But from what I understood from Jennifer Coleman, she's the statewide programs manager, is that this is, you know, we're getting incoming high school grads. This is our first, you know, our first touch, basically. So the concern was that data from CCCApply and data from Common Assessment could be different. Multiple measures would need to be programmed into CI by the colleges. Yeah, so these are things that I wish John was here to speak to. I'm sure that, you know, they're working these out, but if you haven't, Amy, I would love it if you would go to the support site. Their Common Assessment is now in the support site too. What happened? Sorry, get this out of the way. Oh my gosh, hold on, here we go. So if you come here, you'll see that categories include not just CCCApply categories. This is the support site for, yeah, we're at the top, but here's Common Assessment. There's a project underway called Project Glue. Some of you may know what that is. It's a college adapter that will maybe eventually replace our download client, which is kind of a big deal. It's going to kind of be a real-time data update for colleges. Student Services Portal, Ed Planning, Online Ed, and CVC, everything's in here. So this would be the place that we would ask those questions and get answers. Now I know that we've asked, so it looks like there's only 21 posts in here so far, but they're all FAQs. If you can't find the answer to your question in here, this is where you'd want to post one, because their team is monitoring this. I hope that helps, Amy. Sorry about that. We can follow up with you after. Whoops. Okay. Well, if we didn't miss anything, if we did, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Otherwise, I'm going to thank you again for staying 15 minutes over. Appreciate it. Let us know if you have any questions. Please test and set up and pilot, and let us know if you need help with your Shibboleth upgrade. Remember, you don't have to do it, but if you're thinking about it, let us know if we can help. Thank you, Tyler and Stephen. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, Patty.